Now we will perform the first refactorings. Please open your IDE. After running the tests and making sure that you are green, this should be always the first step before we proceed with any refactorings, let's open Real Estate Finder. Here it is, and let's try to do anything about it. Please remember that refactoring is always a journey. You try, sometimes you succeed, sometimes you realize that you end up with worse code, so you take a step back and you learn. We have a method by below area that returns buildings that are smaller than maximum number of, for example, square meters. We have a similar method that returns all the real estates made of given material. But these two methods are very similar. They contain almost the same. Here is the only difference. Have a look using Ctrl W or Alt up arrow. Here is the condition. Here is the second condition. The remaining part of both methods is exactly the same. So let's play with it a little. Let's mark this condition and let's try to extract it into a method. Using Ctrl Alt M, you will see a pop-up for extracting a method. I will give it a name like check. And I've got it. IDE found one more place, as you see, that can be replaced with call to this method. So I'm accepting this. And here is my method, check. But this method takes two parameters. And when I have a closer look at these parameters, when this method is called in a loop, let's say 1000 times, the first parameter will be the same. Whereas for each call to this method, out of 1000 calls, the second parameter will be always different. So maybe I should put this method into a class. This class would hold the maximum area, the condition, as a field, because it never changes. It is the same all the time. Whereas the second parameter, the building, would become a parameter, the only parameter, because it changes. Okay, I will inline this method back for a while. Let's do this. Ctrl-Alt-N, click Ctrl-Alt-N or Command-Alt-N. This allows to inline a method. The method will disappear. And let's do a quick trick. Let's create a class with name below area spec. I have such a class. And this class will take maximum building area as a parameter. It doesn't exist yet, so let's click Alt-Enter, and choose Create Class. Click Enter. I have the class created. The class should contain a field, so let's click Alt-Enter here, Create Field for Parameter. I have the field created. Let's click Alt-Insert, Command-N on Mac, and let's choose Generate Getter. And here is a skeleton, a wrapper, around the condition. Let's come back to Finder class, and let's do a quick trick. Here, instead of using the parameter directly, let's put below area spec dot get maximum building area. All the tests should be still green. We can check using Shift F10. Yes, everything seems to be green. And let's extract this method again. I'm marking this using Ctrl W. Please remember, Ctrl W or Ctrl Shift W marks more and more. On Mac it is Alt up arrow or Alt and down arrow. I'm marking the condition. Ctrl Alt M, extract a method with the name check. And now you see this method takes two parameters, but the first parameter is different. It is the class that I've created. Click refactor or click Alt-R, refactor, keep original signature. And let's have a look. Now this method check takes still two parameters, but the first parameter is the class, so I can very easily click on this method and using F6, I can move this method into below area spec. You see, now this method has been moved here. This getter, most likely it is not needed because it is called only from this place, so I will inline this getter, Ctrl-Alt-N or Command-Alt-N on Mac. Inline method, inline the getter. And as you see, now I have specification class that checks if given building fulfills the condition. And now, when I'm thinking further, I can realize that most likely for material spec, most likely for looking for buildings made of build using given material, I would create most likely a very similar class. And then these two classes would share the same common method, check. Now maybe it's not check, maybe let's rename it. Using Shift F6, I will rename it into is satisfied by, because it makes more sense. It means I am a specification, I am satisfied by given building. And most likely such a method would be present in material spec. Material spec again would be condition that checks if property is built on using material. Let's open here. So it looks like most likely this method should be interface. If I want to make this method an interface, first of all, I need to make this method public. Click Alt-Enter, change access modifier, make it public, and let's extract in the interface. Ctrl-Alt-Shift-T, that's the big shortcut for the biggest refactoring menu, and here you will find extract interface. I'm clicking on this. The name of the interface is spec, as you see. I'm marking the method is satisfied by. I'm clicking refactor. At this point, IntelliJ can search throughout the whole project and try to find places where the class below area spec can be replaced with the interface. In case of a parameter method, a method parameter, local variable, field, and so on. So please do this. Have a look. As you see here in line number 18, there is a proposal that I will replace this type from the class into the interface, and if you want, I can adjust the name so the name refers to the interface rather to the class. I'm clicking yes, I do agree. Please rename it into spec, click OK. Click do refactor at the bottom, and let's have a look if it happened. As you see, now this local variable is of type referring to the interface. We have the interface. And now, moreover, I can mark the remaining lines and extract one more method. And if I extract method out of the remaining lines, the only parameter to this new method called bySpec will be, as you see, the interface. Let's click refactor and let's have a look. I have bySpec. And this bySpec takes the interface only. Now I can play with the remaining parts of the method that seem to be quite old. If I click Alt-Enter, I can replace while with for loop. If I click Alt-Enter on for again, I can replace it with collect. Now I realize that most likely I do not need to have this local variable because it doesn't bring any value, so I will inline it, Ctrl-Alt-N. Now I can put additional lines into places. And here is my new method that takes only the interface. It shouldn't be private. I guess it should be public, so it is public. And this method will be calling this bySpec method. Do I need this local variable? Most likely not, so I will inline this local variable. And this way we have quickly climbed up by the pyramid of refactoring. We cleaned up this code, this method, we extracted a method, we extracted additional class below area spec, we extracted the interface, which is here, and moreover we changed Real Estate Finder by opening for new extensions. We can even do one more thing. Please have a look. Most likely when we create more such classes like specification, we should create quickly by clicking Alt Insert, additional package called specs. And this package will contain implementations of the interface. I'm putting it here because most likely maybe other packages will be implementing the specifications, maybe other modules, maybe other teams might want to reuse our Finder by implementing this spec interface. In the next part, we will have a closer look at how, even in this small, quick sample, we climbed up from the bottom towards the top of the pyramid of refactoring.